This psalm is the last of a series of 11 psalms which Asaph composed. I explained in a previous class that Asaph was a Levite who was a composer in the orchestra of the Beis HaMikdash, and this was one of his psalms. The idea of this psalm is that Asaph is asking Hashem that, given the situation that the nations want to destroy the Jewish people, he's asking Hashem that Hashem should not be silent and should listen to the prayers of the Jewish people, and he should take revenge on the people who are trying to destroy the Jewish people. And he asks that Hashem should take revenge, just like in the past God has taken revenge, and he gives different instances in history which God has done that. And he mentions the case of the army of Midian and the generals of Midian, that they were killed by Gideon, and he talks about how Yavin, who was the king of Chatzar, and his general Sisera were defeated by Dvorah and Barak in Nachal Kishin. And he finishes off the kapitel with a prayer that God should be acknowledged by everyone. Shir Mizmor Asaph. This is a psalm which was sung by Asaph, and the reason why it's appropriate that this psalm should be said by Asaph, the commentaries explain, is because this kapitel is alluding to a specific incident which would happen many years later, and the case of Yehoshaphat, that there was a war, and Yehoshaphat was fighting the war, and this prophecy inspired them to fight, and Yehoshaphat was one of Asaph's descendants. So he asks, Alakim, God, Al Damilach, do not be silent, Al Techrash, do not be deaf, Al Tishkat Kel, and do not be quiet. Ki hine eivecha yamoyun, because your enemies are in uproar. Umisanecha, and the people that hate you, nasu reish, have lifted their head. Meaning to say that they look like they're being successful. Al amcha yarimu soid, they plot against your nation. Visyatsu al sipunecha, and they are taking counsel on the ones that are hidden, the ones that you protect. Amnu lechu ben achitim megoy, they say, let us cut them off from being a nation. V'leizachar shem Yisrael, and the name of Israel should no longer be remembered. Ki noitzu lev yachtov, for they take counsel together. Alecha bris yichraisu, and they make a covenant against you that your name, God's name, should be eradicated. Ali Edom v'Ishmaelim, hence from Edom and the Ishmaelites, who as the commentaries explain, they're not just making a one-time attack, they're settling in tents to make a prolonged attack until they succeed. Moav v'Hagrim, the nation of Moav and Hagrim. And Hagrim, the commentaries explain, were our descendants of Hagar, who was Avram's maidservant, a concubine. Gvo v'Amin v'Amalek, the nations of those nations, Pleshus and Yesh Mitzor, and Pleshus with the inhabitants of Tzor. Gam Asher, also Asher, which is Assyria, which is far from the land of Israel. Nilva Imam, they also joined with these nations. Ha'Yisrael ibn Lot Selah. They became a strong arm of Lot's sons, which Lot's sons we already mentioned are Amim and Moav. Now, after mentioning all the nations by name who were conspiring against Hashem and his people, he asks Hashem, Asi lahem kemidian, you should do to them just like you did to Midian. And the story goes in Judges and Shoftim that Gideon was successful against Midian with just a small group of men. Kesisra chayavin benachal kishin. And you should do just like you did to Sisera and Yavin. Yavin was the king of Canaan, and Sisera was his commander. And just like over there, they were able to overpower him and destroy the army in Nachal Kishin. Nishmedu ve'in Doyer, they were destroyed in a place called Ein Doyer, and the commentaries are unsure whether this was the victory over Midian or Sisera. Hayadaiman Ladama, they became like dung of the earth. That means they became totally worthless. Shisemei Nidivemei, make their nobles Ka'oriv Uchazev Uchazevach Uchazalmuna, which these were all generals in the Midian army, and we're asking Hashem that in the current situation that all the nobles should follow the fate of the generals of Midian who were destroyed, who were killed. Kol Nisecheme, all the princes should be just like these generals mentioned who were destroyed. Asher Amru Nirsha Lanu, what are these nobles? What do these princes say? They said we're gonna conquer Eis Na'is Alekim, the beautiful place of God. They wanted to specifically destroy the beautiful place which has God's presence, and they wanted to destroy it. Alekai Shisemei Chagalgo, God, make the enemies like chaff, kekash lifnei ruach, like stubble before the wind. Ke'esh tivar yar, just like a fire destroys the forest, so too you should destroy the enemies. Uchalahava, to light harim, and just like a flame ignites the mountains. Pain tirdefim b'sarecha, you should pursue them with your storms. Uvesufascha savalim, and you should terrify them with your storms. Mali faneim kolin, you should fill their faces with shame. Vivakshu shimcha Hashem, and they're going to seek your name, which means that they're going to be so desperate that even they are going to have to admit that if they want something, the only possible way to get it is to try and ask Hashem. Yivoshu vibalu ad moed, let them be shamed and terrified forever. V'yachberu v'yavedu, they'll be disgraced and they'll be lost. V'yedu ki ata shimcha Hashem, and they're going to come to know that you whose name is Hashem, levadecha, alone, Elyon HaKol Haaretz, is the most high upon the entire universe.